Hey guys, it's Abby. Welcome back to my channel. So I was kind of stumped on like video ideas, right? I was like, what could I possibly do other than film like, TBRs and vlogs? Just, the regular like booktuber topics. How can I make this interesting? What if I like torture myself, you know? Why would you want to torture yourself? I mean, and the answer is because I hate myself, and sometimes I just get really bored and my curiosity gets the best of me. So, what are some like bookish ways to torture someone? The normal person would be like, oh, you could read one of the most devastating pieces of literature ever. And then my mind automatically thinks, like, I should read a Colleen Hoover book. And I said this last year. Maybe I should like make an annual thing to like read one Colleen Hoover book a year. And so that's what I'm gonna do. I read Layla last year towards the end of the year, and we're coming up on the end of the year for 2024. And I'm just like, let's do it. What perfect time to end the year with a Colleen Hoover book? What is like one of the worst Colleen Hoover books? And it's kind of hard to find one of the worst ones because they're all kind of bad. I was looking at my Libby app. What book have I heard bad things about that I can get as quickly as I can? The book I chose, November 9th. I don't want to say like I'm missing out on a portion of today's literature, if you even call it that. I feel like I need to stay up to date with the book talk trends being Colleen Hoover books. I'm excited because I can't wait to be a critic. There she is. How many brain cells am I gonna lose by reading this? How many steps back I took as a feminist when I read Layla last year? It was a lot of steps. So, Noel. By the way, disclaimer, this video will have spoilers, as I'm going to be yapping a lot about the contents of this book, so if you care anything about spoilers, haven't read this book, and you want to read it, then I suggest you skip this one, and I'll check in when I have some thoughts. I'll let you know. I gotta give it to Colleen Hoover though, because she always starts out her books with some of the most gripping sentence starters ever, You wanna know what this book starts out with? I wonder what kind of sound it would make if I were to smash this glass against the side of his head. You're so real. That's actually really valid, girl. I just finished the first November 9th. Let me tell you what this book is about so far and my thoughts. This book starts out with our female character, Fallon O'Neill. Our Fallon, she's at lunch with her father. We're gonna call him Don. You heard earlier that I was like, oh my god, the first line of the book, she had this fucking internal monologue about how she wanted to bash her glass upside his head. And I'm like, you know what, girl? I'm all for that. It's a thick glass. His head is hard. The potential nice big thud is there. I wonder if he would bleed. There are napkins on the table, but not the good kind that could soak up a lot of blood. Thing about her dad, Don, is he's talking about getting married again. And I don't know how many wives he's had at this point, but he's had a couple. And she's not having it. She is just tired of hearing about his shit. He is so like self-absorbed. He's practically a deadbeat dad. Perhaps this is why I sympathized with her a little bit. The daddy issues, they run strong. They honestly just keep on going back and forth about the marriage and stuff. He's kind of just like not been there for her the last 2 years of her life, or really at all during her life, because he's also in the entertainment industry. He's an actor, I'm pretty sure. He's honestly just really been obsessed with his career and wanting his daughter to follow in his footsteps. The thing about Fallon is that she's been like a teenage actor. She's been in the industry when she was 16, because she's 18 now. Next thing you know, she's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. She goes to the bathroom. As she looks in the mirror, this is where we learn that she has scars all over I'm pretty sure it's the left side of her body. And it turns out that she is a burn victim. I think it's like the 2-year anniversary of the fire that she was in. She called her dad out for food to tell him that she's moving to New York tonight. Good for her. Love that for her. And telling him on such short notice, like, okay. Do your thing, girl. Fallon's dad. We find out that he accidentally caught his house on fire. Not sure how you do that, but well, actually, I do know how you do that. That Fallon was also in the house at the time of the fire and he did not know, or he forgot that she was in the house when the fire started, and no one really knew that she was in the house until it like made it up to the second story and they heard her screaming. So now she's left with these burns that she has to live with for the rest of her life. But after she does her business, she comes back out of the bathroom, she locks eyes with a stranger, and there's like a whole 3-page description of her and this stranger guy. It's bizarre. She's like studying his outfit, how he's kept. He staring at her because, you know, she's got all these burns, and that's what she tries so hard to hide, these burns. But he's staring at her, and I'm just like, oh god. But yeah, she goes back to the table, tells her dad, Dawn, that she's moving to New York and she wants to pursue acting in the theater realm. As a deadbeat dad always does, he's completely against it, but not for the reasons that you would expect. You know, he's not worried about her safety or anything. Like, your girl going out to New York to live all alone? Like, you're way too young. Like, don't you want to stay at home for a couple more years? No. You want to know what this fucker is worried about? He's worried. Oh, you're not gonna make it. Like, your acting career ended 2 years ago. But he just goes on to berate her and basically tells her that after the fire, she cannot act anymore, and insinuates that she's not going to get anywhere in the entertainment industry with her physical appearance, because looks play a big part in like LA, Los Angeles, New York. Remember the stranger from earlier that was staring at her? He gets up and he scooches in to the booth next to her. And he's like, hey babe, sorry I'm late. Traffic was like so bad, you know. This man pretends to be her boyfriend. And he introduces himself as Ben, but his real name, get this, Benton James Kessler. You know, one thing about Colleen Hoover, she's gonna make some atrocious names for her characters. Fallon? Jimmy Fallon? And he's like, oh, yeah, so what do you think about her moving to New York tonight? But get this, he literally says, I don't want my ladybug running off to another city, but if it means she's following her dream, I'll be the first to make sure she's on her flight. The fact that he called her Ladybug. But yeah, her dad is adamant about her not going to New York. In his mind, he's like, oh, she's not gonna make it. She's not gonna go that far. Oh, I've been in the industry long enough, and I know when someone needs to give up. But then Ben says, did you really just say out loud that your daughter needs to give up? And I mean, slay. Fallon, she's proved pretty well that she can defend herself, but I'm also really living for a random stranger standing up to her. But also, like, it's kind of not his business. Her dad says, listen, Ben, Fallon doesn't need you filling her head with nonsense simply because you're excited about the prospect of having a booty call on the East Coast. Who says that about their daughter? Who says that about her daughter's boyfriend? He says, my daughter is smart, she's tough. She accepts that the career she worked her whole life for is out of the question now that she secretly, like, she knows what he's thinking. That's fucked up. After she was in the fire, all her contracts got pulled. She was no longer this teenage actor anymore because they just didn't like her looks anymore, which is really sad. She says, I think he mourns the idea that he's not the father of an actress more than he mourns almost losing his daughter to a fire that was caused by his carelessness. Like, okay, Fallon, you go off. Fallon's like, finish your sentence, Dad. Finish it. I dare you. Triple dog dare you. Finish it. You know I think you're beautiful, Fallon. Stop twisting my words. It's this business that has higher standards than a father does, and all we can do is accept it. In fact, I thought we had accepted it. Ben's just sitting there like, wow. You're her father and you just said that to her? Fallon knows I believe she's got more talent than all of them put together, but she's also realistic. Everyone has dreams, but unfortunately, she no longer has the tools it takes to achieve hers. She needs to accept that before she wastes money on a cross-country move that isn't going to do a damn thing for her career. If I was in this situation, I'd probably start crying for one. If I was also more of like headstrong, I'd be diving over the table and wrapping my hands around his throat, you know? Ben goes on to give all these examples of successful figures that, regardless of their flaws, they were still very successful in life. Like Ben says, if your daughter is as talented as you claim she is, wouldn't you want to encourage her not to give up on her dreams? Why would you want her to see the world the way you do? Her father's. And how exactly do you think I see the world, Mr. Kessler? Through the closed eyes of an arrogant asshole. That really pisses her dad off because he gets up and he throws some money onto the table and he's like, I may be honest to a fault, but if bullshit is what you prefer to hear, then this prick is perfect for you. I bet your mother loves him. And then he leaves. It could have all been just fine and dandy here. I would have loved one POV from Fallon. That would have been completely fine. But then you turn the page and you get to read Ben's point of view and his internal monologue. Not only have I lost brain cells reading Ben's point of views, but you know how men write women? Oh, men written by women. Women who write men. His point of views are so bad. I don't even want to talk about it. It's just gonna get me heated. Alas, I think I'm gonna have to talk about it since you're here and you're listening to me yap about this damn book. He seems very regretful about what he's done. Like, oh, this is totally not my place. I shouldn't have done this. Kind of excuses herself, and he's left here like, oh, I should have gone. I should have left half an hour ago. I should have left. He orders her some fresh food because her food got cold from arguing with her dad, and I'm like, aw, he's so sweet. And then, and I quote, this is actually from the book, I'm telling you, I seem to have a one track mind, and that track leads straight to the two things I shouldn't even be thinking about right now. Her boobs. Both of them. I know, I'm pathetic, but if we're going to just sit here and stare at each other, it'd be nice if she were showing a little cleavage instead of wearing this long sleeve shirt that leaves everything to the imagination. It's pushing 80 degrees outside. She should be in something a lot less convent inspired. That's probably why she's wearing the long sleeve shirt. It shields everyone from seeing what's beneath it. And of course, this thought leads me to her breasts again. Are they scarred too? How much of her body is actually affected? Fallon begins to analyze Ben. She does a deep dive and literally drags him to filth. Literally, I highlighted it. It's a whole thing. Fallon asks about him. He's a writer. He's 18 too. Then they go get some frozen yogurt together and they just have like a little deep conversation. She just kind of wants to get down to the bottom of this and find out what his intentions are. Do you know my story? Are you pretending not to know? What are you trying to get out of this? Surely guys aren't as shallow as she's implying. If so, I'm embarrassed on behalf of all men. I know what you're trying to do here, Colleen. And it's not working on me. I'm just telling you that. And then this is the best part. Ready? You want to know what I thought when I saw you for the first time? The first time you walked past me before I interrupted your lunch date with your father, I stared. I kid you not, this is what he says. I stared at your ass the whole time you were stomping away, and I couldn't help but wonder what kind of panties you had on. That's all I thought about the entire time you were in the restroom. Were you a thong girl? Were you going commando? Because I didn't see an outline in your jeans that hinted you were wearing normal panties. It gets worse. I started to get this panic feeling in my stomach because I wasn't sure if I wanted to see your face. I had been listening in on your conversation and already knew I was drawn to your personality, but what about your face? But then I grew really uneasy and shifted in my seat because, as you so clearly pointed out already, I haven't even looked in the mirror yet. I don't know what you were seeing now that you were looking back at me, and if you even liked what you were seeing. My palms started sweating because this was the first impression you were getting of me, and I didn't know if it was good enough. You were almost to my booth at this point, and that's when my eyes fell to your cheek, to your neck. I saw the scars for the first time, and just as I noticed them, you darted your eyes to the floor and let your hair cover most of your face. And you know what I thought in that moment, Fallon? He says, I was so relieved because I could tell with that one simple movement that you were really insecure. And I realized since you obviously had no idea how fucking beautiful you were, past tense, that I just might actually have a chance with you. And so I smiled because I was hoping if I played my cards right, I might get to find out exactly what kind of panties you were wearing under those jeans. He goes back to her apartment with her to pack because she hasn't finished packing for New York. I feel like she should have done that by now, you know? As Fallon takes him back to her bedroom, he's like, I'm gonna follow Fallon to her room now so I can see what kind of panties she's got on. You see, I feel like when this was being written, she had an idea of like, oh, this could be like a little meet cute, you know, about how these two people met and make it a little quirky. But no, I'm just very weirded out right now. I'm very uncomfy. I don't know if the circumstances make everything worse or their internal monologue because it's really bizarre. Like, I can't fathom how someone like thinks this in their brain. Like, it just doesn't make sense. She's like, you know what? I'm moving cross country. I'm never gonna see this dude again after tonight. What the hell? Who cares if the guy just wants to get in my pants? I'd actually prefer it if that's all he wanted. Girl, Fallon, please. You deserve more than that, girl. Why would you say that? He's chilling on the bed while she packs. He gets out his phone. He's like, okay, I need to make a reservation, dinner reservation. I don't know what the fuck to wear. He's going through her closet and he's like, nope. Nope, nope, but he finds one. It's a very revealing dress that her mom got for her to hopefully like inspire some confidence in her after her accident. But she's like, no, I'm not wearing that. I don't want to wear this. I want to wear this. And he's like, no, like, I'm paying for dinner, so I get to choose what I want to look at while I eat. And you're going to wear this dress. You just met this girl. You are pushing every fucking boundary in the book right now. There just doesn't seem like any respect to begin with in this situation. She talks to him like, you don't know what it's like to be in my skin. I'm not comfortable wearing this at all. He has the audacity to say, but it's your own fault people feel uncomfortable looking at you. And the things he says, they are the most unhinged, deranged things anyone could possibly ever say. But then he comes up with what he thinks is like intelligent reasoning behind what he just said, but it's really not. He's trying to save himself. But I know what you are. I know what you are, Ben. And then this scene is really bad because I'm uncomfortable reading it. He just like starts like, you know, talking to her up, like pushing her hair out of her face and starts to undress her internal thoughts. She is clearly very uncomfortable. She already told him like, no, I don't want to wear that dress, but he's pushing his fucking luck so hard right now, and it just feels really uncomfortable because she's crying. She also is saying stuff like, I don't want to stop it. At that point, Ben should know not to push it, but he keeps pushing it. You have no fucking respect for her whatsoever, bro. He ends up putting the dress on her and he's like, see, you're hot, babe. This man is someone who doesn't have anything to be insecure about whatsoever because he just says the most fucking vile, just very insensitive shit to her. The only person who gives a shit about a few scars on your face is you. It just feels very icky to me. I don't like it. He goes back to his house to like freshen up because she told him to, and his roommate's there and he says something weird like, oh, I know where you were last night. Little sus, you know. But yeah, he freshens up, he goes back. I don't like this man. I have to give myself props for picking that one out. There's just enough showing at her neckline to keep me good and happy. But I'm not even positive I'll be able to look away from her face long enough to stare at her cleavage. I barely know you, so I'm not about to argue with you over your level of intelligence, because you could very well be as dumb as a rock, but at least you're pretty. I just feel like this entire book is going to be the most insensitive shit ever in hopes of talking her up and building her, like, confidence. I should hate this for you. I should be angry for you because going through this must have been excruciatingly painful. But for whatever reason, when I touch you, I like the way your skin feels. But it's true. I suddenly feel grateful for her scars because they're a reminder of how I could have been much worse. She could have died in that fire and she wouldn't be next to me right now. So yeah, they end up falling asleep and wasting 2 hours. Thank God. It's probably for the best. So yeah, they end up making out. My mother is crazy, stupid, insane, absurd, and she's wrong. Why would a girl care to find herself when she'll never be able to make herself feel as good as a guy can? I hope young girls never have to pick up this book and read it and think that this is the standard. Her internal thoughts. Grab my boob, Ben. And he totally reads my mind and grabs my boob. Grab the other one. God, he's so telepathic. He's like, She's like, I'm scared people will look at me and laugh. And he's like, what's wrong with that? I hope they laugh at you, Fallon. If people are laughing at you, it means you're putting yourself out there to be laughed at. Not enough people have the courage to even take that step. What if we meet up again next year on this exact same day, exact same place, November 9th? And he's like, and after that, we'll do it for 5 years. You'll be 23 by the time. We'll see what happens then. We'll meet every November 9th. Absolutely no contact in between. Maybe I'll write you the perfect romance novel after 5 years. It'll be our love story. And that's where we're at now. We're at the second November 9th. That was a lot. It could have stopped after he stood up for her at the diner or whatever, but no. It just kept going and it kept getting worse. Now that we're at the second November, it's only gonna get worse. Oh yeah. After I had to read Layla in Lee's perspective, do you know how much that hurt me? I can deal with Fallon, but Ben's fucking monologue. Ugh. I honestly don't know if I want to keep reading tonight. Read my fluffy little Christmas book. I've currently been recording for 55 minutes. This is gonna be a bitch to edit. Future Abby, I wish you so much luck. You're gonna need it. Godspeed. I finished the second November 9th. We should talk about it. I'd like to thank not only God, but Jesus, because this was perhaps the most uneventful November 9th. So, the second November 9th. Fast forward 1 year to the next November 9th. From what I read or what I paid attention to, not much has changed for Ben in the past year. Thank God this November 9th started from Ben's point of view, so I'm just like, he's been doing his homework for the year. He's been reading romance novels and attempting to write. He's apparently been out and about kissing girls and comparing each one of them to Fallon. One of them wasn't as funny as her. One was like too self-absorbed. They're just not like her at all. So yeah, this year he's back at the restaurant where they met, waiting for her to come. He starts to think that Fallon stood him up, which she should. I hope she would. But alas, no. Some woman that works at the ice cream shop down the street comes into the restaurant and she's like, is your name Ben? Because there's a girl on the phone down the street and she says it's an emergency. And he's like, oh my god, it's Fallon! Ah! He zooms to the ice cream parlor or whatever. It's Fallon. She tells him that her flight got delayed. He's like, oh, it's better if we meet at my house. He's having some real anxiety, waiting for her to come. In his brain, he literally says, she might not even be funny. She could be a bitch. Alright. Fallon has changed a lot in the past year. When she arrives, her hair is cut short and she's wearing a short sleeve top. She's oozing confidence and I really love that for her. I'm happy for her. It's crazy what a year can do. In New York, Ben and Fallon go inside and she actually tells him that she has to go back to New York the same night. Thank God. So their time is gonna be cut short, probably for the better. He's kind of bitter that they're only gonna spend like 5-6 hours together. As I said, probably for the better. But I mean, a lot can happen in 6 hours, you know? They have some pillow talk, they discuss their homework, and Fallon actually went on a few dates. And she kissed a guy. Not as many guys as Ben wanted her to, but you know, we're starting somewhere. I'm happy for her. That's a slay in my book. But the thing about this guy is he made her feel very flawed. When, you know, they were making out, he would only show attention to the right side of her body, which is where none of the burns are. It's all on her left. Last year, when you touched me, you made me feel pretty. Like I didn't have any scars. Or not like that. I said that wrong. You made me feel like the scars were part of what made me pretty, and I've never once felt like that, nor did I think I'd ever feel like that. So when I was with Cody's the guy that she kissed in New York, I noticed everything. How he only touched the right side of my face, how he only kissed the right side of my neck, how when we were making out, he insisted the lights be off. Fallon, she still got some insecurities, especially when she's trying to be intimate with someone. When they were making out, he wanted to take her bra off. Her left breast is the most heavily scarred from the fire, so she's really insecure about that. I hate that Ben, he talks to her like, you know, they're battle scars. I get that. He's like, oh, you don't have a right to be insecure about that. Like, they're just scars. We have Ben completely invalidating her insecurities. Why would it bother you for anyone to see it? Because it's scarred? "This is so embarrassing, Ben. Not to me, and it sure as hell shouldn't be for you. I've seen you without a shirt already, remember? As I recall, it was pretty magnificent. You've seen me without a shirt, but you should see me without a bra. You would understand." And he takes this as like, okay, show me. Oh, that was not an invitation. This man has clearly never had an insecurity in the entirety of his life, so he gets on top of her. He gives her a whole speech. He irks me so bad. Oh my god. "You listen to me," he says, keeping his hands secured over my mouth so I can't interrupt him. "It pisses me off that you allow something so trivial to define such a huge part of you. I can't make you pretty in this book, because that would be an insult. You're fucking beautiful, and you're funny. And the only times I'm not completely enamored by you are the moments you're feeling sorry for yourself. Because I don't know if you've realized this yet, but you're alive, Fallon. And every time you look in the mirror, you don't have the right to hate what you see." No words. "Because you survived when a lot of people don't get that lucky. So from now on, when you think about your scars, you aren't allowed to resent them. You're going to embrace them because you're lucky to be on this earth to see them. And any guy you allow to touch your scars better thank you for that privilege." Then he says, ready? "You deserve that, Fallon." Fallon deserved you, like, straight up disrespecting her? I'm so pissed that he felt he has the right to even talk to me that way, but the fact that he just talked to me that way made my heart wish it had lips so it could kiss him. "Fallon, sweetie, this is not healthy. I'm pissed off at myself for being so self-centered these last few years. Sure, the fire sucked. Yes, I wish it never happened, but it did, and I can't change it, so I need to get over it." Fallon, sweetie, this is not just something you get over. Girl, I've been through some shit in my life. I'm still not over it. So this is not something you just get over, you know? He is brainwashing you into thinking that this is not something that you should be upset about. But yeah, after this, they start making out. One thing leads to another, and he's seeing her little tatas in all their glory. Thank God, luckily, their time is cut short because a woman walks in, and it's actually his, like, future sister-in-law because his roommate is his brother Kyle, and Kyle is getting married to Jordan. Once they get decent, Ben goes out to introduce Fallon to his family. Jordan, she's very sweet. I'm pretty sure he's got like two brothers. It's Kyle and Ian. Ian's nice, love him so far. Although he did call his dog a little bitch. The groom comes in. Ben introduces Fallon to Kyle, and the energy just changes instantly. Kyle, he's like, "We need to talk," to Ben. Kyle grabs him aside. Fallon's left by herself. All of a sudden, she hears a loud thud, and so she goes to check what it is. I was rooting for Kyle in this moment. Thank God. Kyle has Ben up against the wall, his arm on his like throat. I'm cheering for you. I'm so happy someone is standing up to Ben. But this just adds more layers to the cake. Because why is he so hostile, you know? Kyle calls Ben an idiot and decks him in the eyeball. And Kyle says, "You deserve that. You fucking deserve that." And he did. Oh yeah, I love Kyle already. And then we switch to Ben's point of view again, and he is actually in such disbelief that his brother even hit him. And even in front of Fallon, he's like, "I can't believe he fucking hit me. I mean, he's come close to hitting me a few times, but I can't believe he finally did it tonight." Like, he's either really stressed about his wedding or I did something to really piss him off. Ben, no one just decks you in the eyeball if they're stressed over their wedding. No one completely socks you in the eye over nothing. So obviously, I think he has a valid reason to be pissed. I just have to figure out what he's pissed about. And it's got something to do with Fallon. I'm sure. They go to the beach for a change of scenery and they're talking. Once again, I'm at a loss for what to say to her. I hate knowing the fire took away so much of her confidence, but I think I'm still clueless when it comes to how much it actually took away from her life. You don't say! And you're still like completely so fucking insensitive when it comes to talking about the fire and her scars. Ooh, he pisses me off. Ben ends up taking Fallon to a tattoo shop and he gets a tattoo on his wrist out of impulse, and it's the word poetic with like a music stamp or something. We have no idea what that means yet. He drops her off at the airport. Oh my god, thank God she's out of his sight. Just when I think this November 9th is finally over because I'm losing brain cells just reading about one single day a year. Ben shows up on the flight. Damn it. But no, he ended up spending $400 just to give her homework for the next year. He leaves, thank God. Her homework is to basically call her father in the next year because he feels at fault since they have not spoken since that day he butted in at lunch. He's like, I should have minded my own business. And I'm like, okay, at least he's self-aware, you know. So yeah, the second November ends with Fallon. Now, if I can just figure out how we can finish these next few years with a happy ending. But it's a Colleen Hoover book. We don't get happy endings here. We get very demented, deranged, unhinged endings in this house. It's just a matter of timing. I don't really have any thoughts for this November 9th. I'm just very relieved it was so short. I want these bitches to just get as far away from each other as possible. God, I am dreading. I'm like, a good halfway 50% into the book now that I read the second November 9th. So I'm just like, I want this to be over now because Ben's going to New York this time. I'm gonna go eat dinner, relax a little. I hated this. So I hate that I'm doing this to myself. We've got some good news. No, we don't. Actually, I don't think we have any good news. I'll tell you why. The third November 9th, I've got notes. Each November 9th starts with a quote that I assume to be quotes from his book that he's writing about each other, them, their relationship. She loved me in quotations. She kissed me in bold. I tried to keep her in all caps. She left with an ellipsis. Benton James Kessler. She's not even phased. Fallon is at the restaurant in New York, and she actually has a little notebook with her because she's learned to take notes about all she's done in the past year, what her homework was, and how much she changed. She's went out with 4 guys. Anything other than Ben. She's speaking to her father again. She got 4 callbacks and even a tiny role in an off-Broadway play. So I'd say things are going pretty well for her. She has a whole agenda for her and Ben for the day. But, just like last year, she's kind of left there sitting for a while. Someone approaches her. She's like, is your name Fallon? Because there's a guy on the phone and he says it's an emergency. Shocker, it's Ben. He's still very much in Los Angeles. Thank God. The even bigger shocker, I almost threw my phone against the wall when I read this because I was so upset. His brother, Kyle, the good brother that punched him in the eyeball last year that we were rooting for, Kyle was in a wreck and he ended up passing away. So yeah, Ben's not coming this year. But at what cost, Yeah, Fallon is heartbroken too, but not for the reasons you think she should be heartbroken. I'm heartbroken, crushed, and I'm such an asshole because as much as I want to convince myself I'm crying over the loss of Ben's brother, I'm not. I'm crying for completely selfish reasons, and recognizing that I'm such a pathetic human makes me cry even harder. And I mean, I kind of agree with her. I can't imagine the grief Ben is going through right now, and she's worried about is not seeing Ben this year. Switch to Ben's point of view, he's a mess. He hasn't cried yet. He's had to deliver the bad news to his entire family, his brother, his sister-in-law, Kyle's wife. Not only that, but it's also a week before their anniversary. But Jordan, she's also expecting a child in the next 3 months. It's honestly very heartbreaking. He apparently ran his car off the road into a tree while he was texting Jordan, but I don't think she knows that yet. Hopefully she never finds that out. So yeah, there's a bunch of people in and out of his house while Ben has to handle all the funeral preparations. Even though I'm very, very sad that Kyle has passed away, I'm also very relieved because that means Fallon and Ben don't get to meet up this year. And that's completely selfish of me. I'm so sorry, but the gag is there's a knock on his door, right? It's Fallon. Fallon is at his front door. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I just lied to you. I'm sorry. I'm not here to see if you're okay. I know you're not okay. I just couldn't function after you hung up. The thought of not seeing you today and having to wait another year completely gutted me. And so Fallon spends the rest of the night with Ben and his family, and we get a little, few chuckles out of everyone. She seems to just lighten the atmosphere up while everyone's very deep in their grief right now. The two, they go back to his bedroom. Fallon showers. They actually have some schmexy time. Fallon loses her V card to him. And then after that, they honestly talk about giving up the whole November 9 concept. Ben's like, you know what? What if I moved to New York so we can be together? And so they kind of agree. Fallon agrees to giving him her number. But yeah, Fallon runs into Jordan downstairs, and Jordan's kind of been closing herself in her bedroom for the past couple days because she's obviously grieving her husband. And not only that, but she's pregnant. So, I mean, that makes everything 100% more intense for her. Jordan's just like, so you're the girl Ben is writing his book about. She's actually read a bit of Ben's book because she was like an English major, so she's kind of helping out, you know? Jordan tells Fallon that Ben actually signed with an agent. Rightfully so, Ben didn't mention this to Fallon because there's 100 different things happening right now. So Ben walks in. There's a cute little family moment where he's just like, you know what? You're my sister now, and even though Kyle is gone, me and Ian are gonna take care of you. You're gonna be okay, girl. So that's sweet of him. Seeing all this play out in front of her makes Fallon very regretful of what they just talked about in the bedroom upstairs. Like, she can't take him away from his family that desperately needs him right now. She kind of has this internal war with herself, and she's convinced she needs to get out of there ASAP. I couldn't agree more, sister. From Ben's point of view, they have the most dramatic breakup ever, if you can even call it a breakup. Ben, you don't need to be in New York. You need to be here. I'll just be a distraction and you'll never finish your book. It's only 3 more years. If we're meant to be together, 3 years is nothing. Ben, I'm just like, I'm so over him at this point that everything he says is just laughable.
Meant to be together? Are you listening to yourself? This isn't one of your fairy tales, Fallon. This is real life. And in the real world, you have to bust your ass for the happy ever after. When you find love, you take it, you grab it with both hands, and you do everything in your power not to let it go. You can't just walk away from it and expect it to linger until you're ready for it.
So he starts to think she just took advantage of him. His heart is breaking because he really thinks that she kind of just like used him. Honestly, I wouldn't even be mad at her if she did. He's like,
You're trying to tell me that nothing we did upstairs a couple minutes ago meant nothing to you?
it hurts to know we just shared what we did upstairs in my room, and then you're giving it a little thought. She decides it didn't mean shit to her. That I don't mean shit to her. I've never wanted to use physical force on a girl before, but I want to push her to the ground and hold her there until the cab drives away. Can you believe this? And I love this part, get it? What? Did we even experience the same past 8 hours? Did she fall down the stairs and hit her head? No, I'm not agreeing to this. She's crazy if she thinks I'm just going to give her a high five and tell her I'll see her in a year. I shake my head adamantly and close the door to the cab, refusing to let her climb inside. No, Fallon, you can't just agree to love me and then take it back because you think it's not what's best for me. That's not how this works. Kind of turns into a little pathetic man. You know those girls who throw away everything, their friends, their career, family, just to go and follow the guy? That's what he's giving right now. I don't care about the book. I don't even want to finish it. All I care about is you. Being with you every day, seeing you every day. I'm not finished falling in love with you yet. But if you don't want to finish falling in love with me, then you need to tell me right now. Do you want me to be a part of your life on more than just November 9th? If you say no, I'll turn around and walk right back inside that house, and things can go back to how they were before you showed up here yesterday. I'll continue working on the book and we'll meet up next year. But if you say yes, if you tell me you want to spend every single day on the calendar this year falling in love with me, then I'm going to kiss you. And I promise it'll be an 11, and I'll spend every day after today proving to you that you made the right choice. You know she wanted to say yes. She didn't. God. She says no, and then she leaves, and Ben is just distraught. He is going to be the new Taylor Swift of our time. But thankfully, the next November 9th, I looked at the pages. It looks like it's gonna be real short. No thoughts. Goodbye. I wish I was Jared, 19, never learned how to fucking read. I cannot believe the monstrosity that I just fucking read. I could cry because of how fucked up this book is. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, it gets like 100 times worse. Fallon is back in Los Angeles, and for good this time. Ben, she kind of just like says that he's the reason that she moved back, but really, she also had a career change. Ben arrives to the restaurant with his baby nephew, Oliver. He would bring the baby to their next meetup. He would. Him and Fallon, they catch up with the baby there. He graduated college, so good for him, I guess. Fallon decides to randomly ask him if the baby is like saying words yet. He mostly talks gibberish though. He did say his first curse word though. We keep his baby monitor on at night, and last week, clear as day, he said the word shit. Little guy is starting early. I wouldn't even have like a second thought about it, but Fallon's just like, there's something wrong with that sentence he just said. Ben treats Oliver like a father would treat a son. Oliver looks at Ben like he's his dad. Ben referred to himself and Jordan as a we. And they keep Oliver's baby monitor on at night, which means they share a bedroom? I think you're reaching. You're reaching a little bit. Like, love you, girl, but there's just no way. That's too insane. But he looks at her and he's like, Fallon. She gets up and she goes to the bathroom. I can't believe this fucker just said that to me. I am so convinced that Fallon is just like overreacting. Like, there's no way. I turn to Ben's point of view. This isn't how I meant for her to find out. I was going to tell her, and soon, but I wanted to ease into it. Not that I expected her to be heartbroken over the fact that I'm dating Jordan. In fact, I thought the chances of her being happy for me were greater than the chances of her being upset by it. I hate him. I hate him even more. This man is dating his sister-in-law. I didn't mean for it to happen. It doesn't matter that I'll never feel the same connection with Jordan that I had with Fallon, but Oliver makes up for anything our relationship lacks. The only thing that matters to Fallon is the unexpected twist in our story, one neither of us saw coming, one neither of us even wanted, and one she's partly responsible for. And I have to remember that. As much as she's hurting right now, she hurt me just as much, if not worse, when she chose New York over me. Shut up. Fallon, she's rightfully upset. Honestly, I think she's got pretty good reason to be upset. He's like, give me a chance to explain. And Fallon, we love her for this. You want to know what she says to him? Explain what? Do you want me to stand here and listen to you explain how you didn't mean to fall in love with your dead brother's wife? Do you expect me to argue with you when you tell me it isn't just about what you want anymore, but about what's better for your nephew? Do you expect me to apologize for lying to you last year when I said I didn't want to love you? She dashes the fuck out of that restaurant, which I'm glad she did. She tries to leave, and Ben literally takes her keys. He's like, you can't leave hating me. Not after everything we've been through. I don't hate you, Ben. This was part of the deal, wasn't it? We live our lives, we date other people, we've she's so unhinged. I love it. We fall in love with our dead brothers' wives, and in the end, we see what happens. Well, we've reached the end, Ben. A little early, but it's definitely the end. He's like, we still have 2 more years, Fallon. She's like, no, I know I promised, but I'm not putting myself through that again. Like, you have no idea what it feels like. And he's like, actually, Fallon, I do know what it feels like. I'm not about to compete with a woman who is raising a child on her own, Ben. I won't be the one who took you from her when she's already been through too much. So don't worry, you don't have to make any decisions. I just made it for you. Girl boss. I have a thing for feminine rage. That was a very unexpected turn of events. I won't lie to you, I didn't see it coming. Oh wait, only have like 2 more years to go. I've got the 5th November night, the 6th November night, and then the last November night. So slay. He really is in a relationship with his sister-in-law. He really is in a relationship with his dead brother's wife. He really is acting as his nephew's father. This book is so fucked. I'm actually gonna put on my handy dandy glasses. They hide my flare up on my face right now. We have some developments. Part of this is gonna be like a script. The other I filmed my live reaction to. So the 5th November 9th. I am so perplexed. I've got adrenaline out of the ass right now. So Fallon, she's going about her next November 9th. She's moping. Her roommate, Amber, girl, you need to get out of the house. So yeah, Amber and her boyfriend Glenn, they take her to the club with this dude she's seeing. His name is Theodore, but we're just gonna call him Teddy. Turns out Teddy is the only guy that can manage to keep Fallon's mind off Ben for like an hour. She's had a few shots. She's a little tipsy. I'm so convinced that Ben is stalking her because he just randomly shows up out of the blue wanting to ask Teddy and Fallon some questions as if they're like a couple because he says he's doing like a paper or something on soulmates, the probability of soulmates. Teddy's like, soulmates? That's like graduate level work. And Ben's like, you don't believe in soulmates? Are you saying you do? Like, have you even met your soulmate yet? Ben says, she's not here with me. In fact, I was actually stood up by her today, waited for over 4 hours, but she never showed. Fallon just wants to get the fuck away from this situation. So she goes to the bathroom, and then when she comes out, Ben corners her, and I'm just like, mother. Fallon's like, that's nice, Ben, but I really need to get back to my date. Don't be like that. I've been through hell today trying to find you. I don't care. And Fallon's like, are you still with Jordan? You know me better than that, Fallon. If I had a girlfriend, I certainly wouldn't be standing here trying to convince you to come home with me. I'm honestly just so tired of this book at this point. Fallon and Ben end up having a little makeout session in a janitor's closet before they go back to their table. Ben actually tells us that Glenn told him where to find Fallon tonight. Glenn is a snitch. Glenn, when I find you, this guy told me earlier today where to show up tonight so that I could find the girl I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with. And I'm sorry, but that girl just so happens to be your date, and I'm in love with her. Like, really in love with her. Crippling, debilitating, paralyzing love. So please accept my sincerest apologies because she's coming home with me tonight. I hope. I pray. Please, otherwise this speech will make me look like a complete fool, and that won't be good when we tell our grandkids about this. Teddy is rightfully pissed. So pissed that him and Ben had to get escorted out by bouncers because Teddy put him in a headlock. Teddy's like, was all that true? Fallon's just like, I don't know. Like, I just need some time, I guess. Teddy's like, I don't have time for this. You're not even that pretty. Ben and Glenn punch the shit out of him. So slay, because not very cool, Teddy. That was very rude. And then Amber, we love her. She literally takes off her heel, throws it straight between the legs. I hate your stupid pants, asshole. Fallon deserves better than you, and so does Nantucket. Fallon has folded. She's going home with Ben tonight. I love you, Fallon. More than poetry, more than words, more than music, more than your boobs, both of them. Do you have any idea how much that amounts to? So yeah, they've made up. They've had smacks. We find out the reason he got the tattoo is because of his mom. That's why I got the tattoo, because I knew in that moment that I had fallen in love with a girl for the first time. Like real love, selfless love. And my mother told me once that I would know the second I found selfless love, and that I should do something to remember that moment because it doesn't happen for everyone. So yeah, from Ben's point of view, and this time when we finish, we don't talk afterward. We both close our eyes, and I know that when I wake up next to her tomorrow morning, I'm going to make it my mission to forgive myself for all the times I withheld the truth from her in the past, after I make her breakfast. Insert the little live reaction as I read the next few pages because it was insane. Let's read this. Can you please explain to me what the fuck is happening? I glance back to the living room, wondering how I can possibly talk my way out of this, but I know there's nothing he'll believe other than the truth. We're friends, I tell him. I met her last year at a restaurant. Kyle releases a disbelieving laugh. Friends, he says, because Ian just introduced her as your fucking girlfriend, Ben. Shit. I like her, okay? I can't help it. It's not like that's what I set out to do. Does she know, Ben? Does she have any idea that you're the one who started the that you're the reason she almost died? I knew it. I knew it. I slammed the pages back on top of the others. He's fucked up. Ben is a twisted, fucked up writer. How dare he take something real, something that I suffered through, and turn it into fiction with a ridiculous plotline. I'd almost like it better if he was telling the truth, and he really did start the fire. At least then I wouldn't feel like he was taking advantage of my story. Listen, Fallon, I know I've spent this entire video hating on Ben, but I don't think he would stoop that low. Why would he make up part of the fight when everything else surrounding the fight between him and Kyle actually happened? Did he even make up any of it at all? I laugh at myself. It's not true. He didn't meet me until 2 years after the fire. There was no way he could have been there. Besides, what are the chances he would run into me on the anniversary of the fire? Exactly 2 years later. He would have had to have been following me. He wasn't following me, was he? I need water. I get water. I need to sit down again. I sit down, and I do the only thing I can to find more answers. I read, Nosy, nosy girl. Oh, yeah. Every life begins with a mother. Mine is no different. She was a writer. I'm told my father was a psychiatrist, but I wouldn't know for sure since I never had the chance to ask him. He died when I was 3. I have no memory of him, but I suppose it's for the best. It's hard to grieve people you don't remember. I suppose I should get on with how my mother died. I should probably also get on with how a girl who inspired me to write this book relates to a story that begins with my mother. And I suppose if I get on with both of these things, I should also get on how Dylan Thomas relates to my mother's life and how both led me to Fallon. It seems so complicated when in fact it's very simple. Everything relates, everything is connected, and it all begins on November 9th, 2 years before I came face to face with Fallon O'Neill for the very first time. November 9th, the first and last time my mother would. Huh? The night I intentionally started the fire that almost claimed the life of the girl who would one day save mine. I hope you enjoyed that because guess who's on the 6th November 9th now? I'm gonna go read more. This November 9th actually has to be the most depressing shit ever. Fallon, she is in shambles. I gotta give it to Colleen here because the way she writes Fallon completely like heartbroken and distrusting of the entire world is actually really good. I think it's some of her finer works. Because Fallon, she really doesn't think she's gonna ever be able to trust anyone ever again. Her walls are built up so high now because of what Ben did to her. This November 9th, she gets a knock on her door. It's Ben. She actually filed a restraining order against him the last November 9th after she found out that he was the reason behind her scars. He has dropped off his manuscript for her to read this year. You thought you were gonna be done with me, girl? Don't you worry, because I'm gonna make sure you keep on thinking about me. Obviously, she doesn't want to read it, so she just goes to sleep. But then when she wakes up, her mother is there and she is visibly upset. Her mother ended up reading the manuscript. Her mom convinces her to read the manuscript. Let's begin with the contents of this manuscript because it's a doozy. 18-year-old Ben wakes up on November 9th to go check on his mother, but discovers that she took her own life. He's obviously very distraught. Ben finds out that his mother was actually in a relationship with Fallon's dad, Donovan. So Ben is fully convinced with no proof whatsoever that his mom did what she did because she was so heartbroken by Fallon's dad. Ben decides to look more into Dawn and even drives to his house. He thinks he witnesses Dawn finding out about his mom. Ben's like quite upset that he didn't have more of a visceral reaction to finding out that his mom was dead. Ben is just so consumed by anger at this point that he sets fire to Dawn's car. It soon takes his entire house. He didn't think the fire would get so out of hand, but it did, and when he gets home, he's having a panic attack in front of Kyle. And I was rooting for Kyle up until this point. Kyle immediately says, like, okay, Ben, you need to go and put your clothes in the washer. You need to not speak of this to anyone ever again, and you are going to take this to your grave. So yeah, live coverage is on the TV and they're finding out that, oh, there was someone injured in the fire and it was Fallon. She actually suffered 4th-degree burns to half of her body and she would need some reconstruction surgery. It was that bad. So Ben, he's just got like this awful opinion of his mother now. Like, Ian's like, did you even read her letter? Oh my god, it's so sad. It's actually really sad. I won't lie. I teared up a little bit. It hits a little too close to home. I'm just saying. Their mother did what she did because she received a terminal cancer diagnosis. She did not want to burden her family with the mental, physical, the financial troubles that cancer would bring with her. So it was never because Fallon's dad broke her heart. So Ben just like flat out committed arson because of an assumption, an inkling, thus ruining Fallon's life. Ben writes all about his guilt and his grief in his manuscript, even writes about the day in the restaurant and everything else that followed after that. The last November 9th. We've made it, guys. And I couldn't stop reading it because I'm just like, you know what? I'm this far in. Let's just get it done with. It's from Ben's point of view. Shocker. He made a promise to Fallon. I'm just gonna be sitting at our restaurant, same spot, same time, for the rest of my life in hopes that you'll forgive me one day. He's sitting in that restaurant for a good 18 hours up until they close at like midnight, but then he sees Fallon get out of her car outside. But she says she's not there to forgive him. You were 16. You had been through one of the worst things a child could ever experience. Your actions from that night weren't because you were a bad person, Ben. It was because you were a scared teenage boy, and sometimes people make mistakes. You've carried so much guilt for what you did, and for so long, you can't ask for my forgiveness because there's nothing to forgive. If anything, I'm here for your forgiveness because I know your heart, Ben, and your heart is only capable of love. I should have recognized that last year when I doubted you. I should have given you the chance to explain it then. If I had just listened to you, then we could have avoided an entire year of heartache. So for that, I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. And I hope you can forgive me. He's like, you aren't allowed to apologize to me, Fallon. Then you aren't allowed to apologize to me. Fine, I forgive myself, and I forgive myself. Oh, I almost forgot. For the most important part, it's why I'm so late. I got a tattoo. My two favorite things. I just got it about 2 hours ago when I realized how selflessly in love with you I am. And then Ben's like, Fallon, you gotta come home with me. We're gonna spend the rest of our lives together. He says some dumb shit, and they lived happily ever after. That's the end of the book. Their endgame, I guess. You already know what I think. I would have loved an ending where Ben is just waiting and it's kind of open ended. So, like, we don't know whether Fallon comes or not. He's just left there sitting and waiting. I'm probably gonna give it like a 1 star, maybe two at most. You know, this completely makes me want to just never read a Colleen Hoover book ever again. I think this will last me until next year when I decide to read another one because I hate myself. I feel like I've aged a good like 10 years because of this book. This book was bad. I don't know how people think it's like romantic. This is not romantic to me. I just want to forget this book as quickly as I can and never revisit it because it was so bad. You know, I thought Layla was bad, but even Layla, like, I couldn't stop reading that. It was so, like, bad that it was good. That was like crack for me. I feel like a weight has been lifted off of my chest because I can finally say that I've finished it. I'm gonna go edit this video and hope that my laptop can handle all the storage it's gonna take up because this one's gonna be a long one. But if you've made it all the way to the end, I'm curious to know what you think about this book. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We're going to be doing a lot more torturing on here. And if you have any like terrible books that you want me to read, you can also tell me those. Maybe I'll make a video about it. I don't know. Until next year, when we read our next Colleen Hoover book. Goodbye. I'm I'm spent. Mm-mm.